Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought I would throw my 2 cents in when it comes to the BR changes. We obviously had a look at the planned ones yesterday, but they usually do an updated version in a few days, so we'll check it out then. Basically, in this video, we're going to go through some vehicles I think should also be BR changed based on the previous ones and also based on my experience over the last few months. Unfortunately, I won't have footage for all of the vehicles, so instead what I'm going to do in this one is use screenshots of them. This is just because I've upgraded my rig and I don't have the highlights set, which I usually do. So hopefully by 6 months or so, I'll have enough of the footage to show you guys. Also, it would be nice to hear your opinions on these things. Which vehicles do you think should move around, and which vehicles should be put around the place? So, let's get some opinions flying around, let's go and have a look at some stuff, and let's go get sorted. So the first ones are more generic instead of vehicle-based, and it's basically BR expansions. Right now, there are some really weird BRs, especially at the high tiers of ground. You have some very, very focused areas of BRs, basically at 11.7 and also at 10.3. 10.3 because that's where most of the premiums are, and also at the same time 11.7 because that's the top BR of the game. What needs to happen is they need to increase the BR of the top tier, so therefore they can spread out the vehicles between 11.7 or then 12.0 and then 11.0, and then it can sort out the BR of 11.0 to 10.0, because right now 10.3 is sucking up literally everything into it, making 9.3, 9.7 and 10.0 really rough to play, and 11.7 is sucking up everything from 10.7 and above, which is why you don't see a lot of 10.7 vehicles, and the only 11.0s you really see is stuff like the Type 90 because it's a premium. So basically, they just need to increase the upper echelon to 12.0, and then it will actually help out those areas to, basically make it so you actually have a bit of variance in what you play and also what you see. Right now, it is very stagnant in what is in both of the BR brackets, and because there is a big difference between, the 10.3, 10.7 area and 11.7, you have a lot of people bringing up vehicles into 11.7 and just getting annihilated, which isn't very fun for them. So yeah, what you need to do is sort that out, and also along with that, give stock APF SDS for vehicles which have it in rank 7 and 6. You could even do something where you only give them a limited amount, only like let's say 5 rounds or 10 rounds instead of the full amount until you unlock the modification. But my god, is it annoying to start off with Heat FS with a lot of these vehicles. Even at lower BRs and lower ranks it's annoying, but at rank 7, especially since the vast majority of the time you're going to face the big bangers of the game, it's not fun at all. So they should definitely bring that in, otherwise it's just going to be really annoying. On top of that topic as well, high tier SBAAs, there's a lot of them right now which got heavily nerfed through the changes to missiles. Even though it was a realistic change, it has still put them in a very negative place. If you compare stuff like the Florak Panzer, for example, or the Florak Rad to something like the Panzer, it is laughable. The fact that the Florak Rad with 2 missiles, both, even if you have the VT1 upgrade, is worse than any of the Panzer missiles. The Panzer also has more missiles, it has them more readily available, has a better radar, and also has guns. The fact that those two are at the same BR is hilarious and ridiculous, which is why there needs to be a little bit more pushing around. We need to start filling out that 10.7 to 11.3 area so there's a little bit more variance in stuff that you actually play, instead of everything just getting sucked up and playing in that area. And one of the ways you do that is through support vehicles, whether it be light tanks, TDs, or even SBAAs. The MBTs can stay where they are because generally that's like a natural progression, and also it generally feels okay to do that. But if you have a look at SBAAs, a lot of them are in very negative places, especially in certain tech trees like Germany, like Britain, like good old China, where they have these weird SBAAs that can't really do their job anymore because of a bunch of changes. So hopefully those are a few things that are looked at and fixed as we go forward. Another problem is at high tiers you have the 2S38. The 2S38, the only reason it isn't a higher BR is because it's a premium. It's as simple as that. And now they have completely stacked that BR range for the Soviets, the 10.0 BR range, which does get sucked up into 10.3, so it doesn't have to have a full up tier into 11.0 most of the time. And once again, the only 11.0 people are running right now is the Type 90. That's the only thing I see. You can deal with it pretty effectively, but the 2S38 is a fantastic multi-role vehicle. It can do everything that other vehicles can't, and the only reason why, as I said, it isn't in a higher echelon is because people play it wrong and instead try and use it as an MBT instead of using it as the support vehicle it should be. If you took those stats and you stuck it on a standard tech tree vehicle, it would be up either 1 or 2 BR brackets, and it would be insanely powerful. But instead, because it's a premium and people play very aggressive in it, because they have the lineup to be able to play aggressive, because once you die in that, you could just gain something else and just keep going over and over, it's one of those things which is never going to change. So it needs to go up in BR. You need to break up that BR for the Soviets, otherwise it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. And also, it means that it would break up the 10.3 BRs for the US and Germany, which are the other areas that you see a lot of people play at. The other one is the toe boxes. The toe boxes got done dirty. Stuff like the M113A1 toe, or the Giraffe, or even like the CM25. All of these vehicles got nerfed. The Wired Guy did atgms last year. Once again, another realistic change to try and make them a little bit better and a little bit more realistic, right? So not actually better functionally in the game, but just realistic, which is something that devs try and go towards. They then put them up in BR. So basically, they nerfed them and then increased their BR because of this weird notion that certain machines, because of certain historical, munitions that they have access to, aka the atgm, have to be higher than other machines because of this weird fantasy of keeping these different, vehicles inside their era. It's a silly thing. It's something that they confirmed that they were doing, was it last year or the year before, where they talked about in a Q&A that they don't want specific types of weaponry at specific BRs because they think it breaks immersion. The fact is that that's just silly, since we have so many different vehicles with so many different types of munitions at pretty much every BR now, and the toe boxes being at the same level as stuff like the ZTZ-88s, being at stuff like the M113s, being at stuff like the M60s, and having to face all of these vehicles and just being worse in every single way is just bad. You've got to do something to them. Whether you give them scouting, whether you give them something to make them a little bit more useful, has to be something that's done. The Giraffe at the moment is at 8.3. It is just an M113A1 toe. It has access to the I-toe. That's it. It gets only 10 atgms. Right? And they have a longer reload than everything. It has no armor. It has a 50 cal. And since CAS is so aggressive at 8387 now, you only have a very small opportunity to be able to do damage with stuff. Instead of that, you could take a million M60s or M48s or stabilized Centurions, and also the Shilka, which is also stabilized. Would you take all of these over the Giraffe? Of course you would, even though a bunch of them are lower BR than it. I would take a Terran 4, which is at 8.0 over this thing. I would take a Magak 3, the M48, over this thing. It's the fact that it's at this BR range is just laughable, and all of the M113A1 toes are like this. I don't know why they're like this. I don't know if they're worried about the penetration being too strong or anything like that, but they have weak armament, long reload, no survivability, no mobility, no artillery because they're SPGs, and also no scouting. They don't have anything going for them. So you either find something to make them good, or not good, but playable, like you did the Type 60 ATM, by giving it just a little bit of something, gave it scouting, because they realized how bad of a situation it was in, or you just remove them and actually put them down in BR, and if you want to remove some certain missiles from it, because you have this weird idea about which missiles should be where and what should be here, then go for it. But right now, they are terrible. They're in terrible places, which is why you never see them in the game, and they are much less used by every compared to every other vehicle. And it sucks because I want to see every vehicle in the game. I want to see them moving around and I want to see them in. The only one I've seen is the CM25. And guess what? It just got blasted 3 or 4 times in a row. Absolutely annihilated. If you're also going to continue with the moving down of all of the 87s and all of the 83s, stuff like the MiG-15s, you know, the US good old F-86s and stuff like that, that's completely fine if you want to save them from the brawl that is 9.3, but please understand that other nations also exist and generally like playing at those BRs too. So instead of just moving down the Chinese, the Soviet, the German, and the US stuff, it might be time to have a look at Italy, it might be time to have a look at Britain, right? And also maybe the F-40, which has just been sat there, you know, collecting dust for many players. The Hunters are not getting reduced in BR, which is just hilarious again. Somehow the Hunter is just, once again, just this god vehicle that everybody seems to just not use, but yeah, it just sits at BRs that it should never be at. That includes the Swedish ones and also the British ones. The Venom FB4 is at 8.7. It's going to be a higher BR than a Sabre and a MiG-15. Both of these vehicles are fundamentally better than it, and the only reason why the Venom does well against it is because people try and turn with the damn thing when all you have to do is reset, vertical, go over, and hammer it. But nobody does that anymore. No idea why. Makes no sense to me, but that's what happens. The G91s for Italy. The G91s for Italy. Do you think a G91 pre-series should be the same BR as a MiG-15 bis? Right? Do you think that should happen? Just think about that, right, for just 2 seconds. Is that something which should be tenable in the game? And the answer is no. It shouldn't be. The G91R1 is going to be a higher BR than them, you know, going around. Like, I don't get the just focus of stuff like these Sabres and all of that stuff. But talking about the Sabres, the F-86K, if you're going to move down all the other 87 and 83s, you got to move down the Sabre Dog, because the Sabre Dog's also getting creamed by all these things. Or what you could do, as I said, is you could put up the 93s that are causing the problems. The Lightning F6, right? It's a very powerful vehicle at 9.3. Insanely busted, can't be touched. How about the F-104s? The F-104A and the F-104C. Just stick them up in BR, right? MiG-19 PT, MiG-19S aren't as bad of a problem, but are still issues going forward. And the reason why these vehicles are not put up is to try and save them from what's above them, but I'd rather they die instead of crucifying a BR bracket, which is what has been going on for 6 months now with the whole setup. Then you have some naval stuff, the Fur Attacker and the Aoba. I played a lot of 5.7 Naval during the Imperial Flagship event, spaded out a lot of vehicles. So there are a few which make absolutely no sense. We made a video on the rank 4 for Britain, right? The Kent, the Norfolk, the York, the Southampton, and the London. The York is just a worse version of all of the other vehicles, and it's somehow at 5.7. It has less armament, it has less armor, and also it has worse secondaries than everything else, because it doesn't have access to VT on the 4-inch guns. Whereas if you have a look at the London, which has the upgraded 4-inch guns, the Mark 16s, it has access to VT. If you compare the London to the York, it's hilarious. If you compare the Southampton to the York, it's hilarious. If you even compare the Kent and the Norfolk to the York, it is also hilarious. The Kent and the Norfolk are the closest to the York, and they're still fundamentally better in every single way than the York. The York is bad. It needs to go down in BR, or what they need to do is they need to decompress the naval BRs, so therefore the York can go down in BR, right? Or everything else goes up, because right now it's just worse than all of the other options. Same with the Aoba and the Fur Attacker. The Fur Attacker and the Aoba have pretty weak guns. They only have 6 of the 203s, and the AP has really good penetration, but good luck doing damage with that, because you're basically just hoping for an RNG ammo rack with them, which absolutely sucks. They also have access to really good torpedoes, which are the good old Type 93 Model 1s, the ones with the 20-kilometer distance. The problem with this is the simple fact that they have really bad firing angles on the torpedo tubes. No idea why that was decided, But yeah, they have really bad firing angles. The survivability also of these machines are completely bad. They just don't survive compared to other 5.7s, and I would take pretty much everything else over them. Basically, you can get a better experience using the Shimakaze with its torpedoes compared to the Furataka and the Oyoba, and its 2BR brackets lower, and it's a lot faster and more mobile around the place. So I would rather just move those things around. There's a bunch of other little ones here and there, but those are the main ones that are at least on the mind right now, and hopefully going forward we'll see an updated BR list which will address a lot of the concerns that people have brought up. There are obviously themes that they're pushing towards in this one, you know, moving around SPAAs, moving around light tanks, and also trying to save that 9.3 to 8.3 bracket of aviation. We'll see if they can do it. Let's hear your thoughts. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Tullio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pieman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Alan Hacker, Ozzy Panzer, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Cam Arslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.